السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته walaalyaal kusoo dhawaada walaalkiina maxamed fluud janaalka crypto ku taajir waan igu soo dhaweynaa intaan vindowa cabaar dhan aan meeshaaneeto suuqan aan ka maqnay alxamdulilah ilaahay ugu nimceynayaa safar yariisaan ku jiray oo dalxiis aan ku jiray cibaado raadiisaan ahay allah naga wada aqbalo so mida hadeertaan inta rabo inaan hela qaybsado walaalayaal waa arrin cajiib suuqa ka dhacay maantadan maalinta jimcada ee shalay taariikh 10 tan la soo maray you would not be able to ma lagu xisaabtami karo there's no guarantee there's nothing in the past aa ku noqon kartid aad dhahda historyga oo tan camal way ka dhacday it's truly waa arrin cajiib ah all over the entire market waxaan aragnay coinyasha intay gaareen point numbero oo that you would never have imagined in within 1 hour or even 30 minutes ee kusoo daawan karaan for example waxaa kasoo qaadayaa sui $3 ee taagneed within 1 hour gudaheeda waxay kusoo taabatay 0.5 halahaneeto oo soo kacayo intadana soo kacayo waa somebody buy order oo ugu jiray so somebody already knew this inuu meeshaan imaanayso inta imaan doonto oo buy order already sii gishtay I have no idea there's no way aan ku dhihi karo maantadan oo waan iskugu diyaarinaya buy order meeshaas gishtay you know every trader waxa u qaadana step by step inta camal buy order la gishtaa because you know okay there's a possibility sui 1.9 camal ku sugaysaa markuu meelahan camal marayo ama waxaa ku sugaysaa 2.4 buy order leedahay but to say inta buy order ku gishanaysaa iyadoo levelkan loo soo dhawaanin waa arrin cajiib iyo mucjize and it's a game that has been played very well I'm pretty sure inshallah wixii oo wax ka maqan dhinaca futures traderska waa ku soo noqon doonaan kuwa spaatka ku jiro you will recover inshallah and mida yar aan rabo aniga inaan ka hadlo all these other coins marabo inaan ka hadlo dhinaca videoganeeto ma ugu talagelin videoganeeto waxaan ugu talagalay BTC keligeeda ayaa rabaa inaan wax yar aan ka taabto inshallah so videoga igu dheeraanin videoyaasha kalena kuwa kalena tartiib some other trades iyo coins aan fiirinayo aan fursado ka raadinayo waxyaalahaasna waa soo dhex dhigaa but the most important thing right now waxa ugu jeednaa the BTC is actually sitting wuxuu ku fadhiyaa meel oo price ee u tahay nothing else in between two trading opportunity u fadhiyaa so let me just go back to the daily si aad u aragtid waxaan ka hadlayo meel kale kama hadlooyo I'm not talking about anything else I'm just talking about level by level kaneto has been tested several times in meeshaneto dhinaca supply zone kaneto almost 3 times la imaaday demand zone kanana hal mar la soo taabtay almost 108 that was the previous 109 kaaseeto previous breakout kaaseeto ka dhaco ahay it was inverse head and shoulder breakout ka dhacay targetkiisana wili lama gaarin it's 130,000 132 iyo wax yariis ku sii daraadi maybe to 140 iska dheh but more likely 130,000 that was the target of this breakout the BTC hadeertan it's actually holding range fiican as a trading wise BTC waxay noqotaa inta sell emailahaaneetana buy u noqotaa having a stop order so when this breaks in break below ganeto is when you now actually start looking for other prices or hoos u sii soco doono maybe below 100,000 kasii badan a kasii raadinaysid however tan arawo aan meeshaan dhinaca chartingka araw inaan ila qaybsado is nothing else other than this chart ilaa hadeertan one high star I don't like to delete waxyaalahan waxaa rabaa inaan arko u socdo so waxaan aan kusoo qoray there is this inverse head and shoulder kaneeto aan videoyaasha kale kasoo hadlay this is the weekly inverse head and shoulder ka aan daawanayo that is the breakout ka targetka weeklygiisa waa 142 adiga it's probably 130 135 or even 142 meeshaaseeto that's where this inverse head and shoulder kaneeto aan qiyaas aan u qaadanaya ma gaari doonnaa ma la gaari doono allahu aclam as long as the neckline holds this inverse head and shoulder kaneeto is still valid. So illa the neckline, which is 109,000, close below that on a weekly basis, it invalidates this inverse head and shoulder kaneeto, then waxaa dhan waan tirtiraya. However, what's so beautiful and amazing aan ka jeclaaday soo daadashadaneeta soo daadatay waxaa u jeedaa linekaneento inta igu jiro this huge line inta aan saartay. It's nothing else other than a channel. So there's this beautiful channel of BTC hadertan ku jira. There was a good support here, another trend line support kisa, and it came back beautifully all the way back down and tested that support. So another resistance waxay u tahay this neckline, this channel resistance u tahay, whether be sometimes bahalka waxaa jirto waxa la dhaho when it does a breakout kaneeto markuu samaysto, sometimes it goes to the target ka and even way above the target ku dhaafi kara. So you might have a target of 140,000 waa laga yaabaa just because of that breakout inuu sii dhaafo oo samaysto high or maybe meelahaneeto this channel uu kusoo gaaro oonu kusoo noqdo. But I will be very cautious dhinaca tradeka meelahaas markaa saas u fiirinayo. It's only a breakout above the all-time high that will give me this target. But as long as that all-time high Caseto does not break that out, there's no need of even targeting higher Caseto. You just slowly tertib kaas u ada, and then eventually we'll so daadana. And I have another line, kind of like a trend line and intasarte. These two trend lines waxaa kan inta kasoo baxayo the previous all-time high, the 60, the 70s, and then 124 gyo taabtay. The other one 125 ki 124 go taabtay. So this breakout kaneto above this 124 or this trend line kaneto or the supply zone is kind of that breakout kaseto, then I could say, you know what, confirmation waxay igu noqon doontaa eventually this mar oo gaari doono. Or the other way around is haddii hoos u soo dhaco lineka hadeertaan oo taabtay weekly waa waxaan fiirinaya daily haddii aadid it messes out these lines. So weekly a break below this, then the next target becomes this trend line. But more likely a lot waxaan jeclahay in aan ka trade gareysto the horizontal compared more to the trend line yaasha waxaan ka jeclahay zaid the horizontal. This trend line wuxuu ka imaanaya way back, wuxuu ka imaanaya the 16,000 the 24,000 kaaseetu ka imaanaya. So eventually we know that BTC markay soo jabsato, that is a line, a trend line that it will eventually come and test. Sida tan camal ee ka dhacda in la test gareeye, this one also will be tested. It doesn't matter if the price inuu ku fadhiyo meesha hadeertan uu taagan yahay. Linekaas ma rabin inaad tiro, waxaa rabin kan inaad iska tiro. So it doesn't matter whether the price meeshan uu ku fadhiyo. We know eventually one day that this trend line kaneeto, whether it be 90,000 or be 134,000, this neckline, this trend line will be tested. The question is when, Malogo, Allahu A'lam. But what I'm watching right now is 109 kaneto on a weekly basis, probably what the mana at the end of this weekend, Septida, the mana does not need to hold, does not need to close below it. Close below that, it opens up road to other more shots and to go even at least, waxay ku geenaysaa fursad kale or at the Arab tit or at meel cusub or like, okay, a break below Gaceto, you just target the 101 and tertib all the way down. So, subhanallah, one thing I am closely and udawanoyo that I'm about to say that we may not see a Q4. Q4 ga waxaa lagu ogyahay that BTC quarterly return kiisa post halving kan ka hadlooya the 2016 wuxuu ay having 2017 Q4 ga waxaa ujeednaa inuu 200% na siiyey. 2020 wuxuu ay having the post halving 2021 5% u bixiyey. And then now you have the 2024 halving wuxuu ahaa 2024 post halvingkiisa Q4 giisa hadirtaan wuxuu maroyaa -2%. Anyway, and waxaan ogyahay that even the post halvingka laga soo bilaabo 2017, if you go back to 2016, every year, every year is kafiri. It doesn't even matter. Post halving, it didn't matter. Like the majority of BTC hadii la fiiriyo dhinaca October-ka wuxuu ugu badnaay that in oo sameysto high returns, good returns inuu sameysto at least 5% to 10% to 20%, whatever. It did not matter. It had an average increase of 20% return in October. October waa ku jirnaa, it's the beginning of it, it's still 2%. This average is still valid as long as that bahal caseto BTC, that 109 caseto still holds, that we are going to see an increase of a 20% average. It could be more than 20% on Hokarta or even less than that. But on an average, let's for the median 14, but on an average BTC had a return over 20%. 20% caseto waxa ma ahan iyadoo 125 kun noqoto waaye, then you have your 20%. October becomes 20% kiisa waa ka heshay when it goes back to its all-time high. So this October, it's still valid until otherwise proven not. There is nothing technically amanta aan fiirinono ama waxaan aniga qiyaastay wax ma karta. I could be wrong, but there is nothing that I am looking at today in October tana ka dhacday ama daadashadaneeto, just because of daadashadan, this manipulation dhacday, that this historically in is bedeli doonto ee noqon doonto a red. I'm still gonna hold as a green October, but the question is how much of a percentage in see doonto. We don't know that until it proves me otherwise. I'm still going to stick to my guns. wax la yiraahdo waxaan aaminsanahay that we are going to see a green October. The question is how much of a percentage? I have no clue. It could be 5%, but I'm taking from the median 14% to 20%. And another thing I need to see is the unrealized net profits. Nupo. This is to show you that actually BTC people when Marco Marayo melahaneto Marco Marayo above the 1%, the 0.5 above than that, you can see that people are high Nupo grid driven peaks below its capitulation 0% caseto, below 0 or capitulation. Enter its very high greed zone or Maroya where people are selling to take their profits. And if we go to the liquidation heat map, waxaan u jeednaa that the liquidation heat map kameneto eventually that the BTC there is a high leverage liquidation ka 111, about 112, almost I think 117 means 113 meelahaneto liquidation kiisa in a very high high that eventually meeshaneto oo ku noqon doono to go grab this liquidity haddii uu hoos usii soconayo, but more likely kor inuu usii socon doono to trap people that are very angry in a maantadan erawan suuqan inay kusoo galaan short ee hoos usii diraana. waxaa laga yaabaa in uu asigana trap u noqdo oo kor oo u diro that they start liquidating the shorts oo maanta suuqadan oo mar dhow hadda soo gali doono oo ka faa'iideysan waayo opportunity shorts soo galay, that they become liquidated by the longs. So it's crazily it's amazing that one other thing or on a weekly basis that I can easily say, you know what, when BTC comes close to this, that I am done with it. You know, one domestic. It is getting so close. We are sitting on the 20 weekly moving average. If you even look in the past, let me just remove 9 drawings. I just want to focus on the indicator. I am just looking at the indicator from the previous highs and the previous lows. The blue one, is the 52 moving average, and the purple one is the 20 EMA. So we know right now that BTC, it has dumped below the 20 weekly moving average multiple times in a kasoo noqotay and laga daadiyey daadashadiisana close bilowgiisa in uu soo test gareeyey that it actually went to the 52 moving average weeklyga. In the past, if you go back at the Akunokotit, if you're looking at the time zone kaneto, or fiirisid as far as the 52 moving average goes. Let me zoom out. Let's zoom out. When you look at the purple, we are only looking at the purple. Let me just close out the 20 guys. Let's look at the blue one. Every time that BTC came below the 52 moving average, every single time we've seen a bear market. Every time oo kasoo noqdo meeshaan to below it, we've seen a huge dump. It did not matter where the price was at. Daadasho weyn ka dhacday. No matter where it was at. Every time it closed below the 52 weekly moving average, waxaa ku xigtay daadasho oo cajiib you can there is a huge percentage drop oo kasoo dhacay. Inta wuxuu ahaa 48% drop. From here it was about maybe another 50% drop. Approximation way aan bixinayo. Intan wuxuu ahaa about 66% drop. You know, that is what I'm looking at hadertan. This is my bear scenario. Break below that 52 weekly moving average, BTC waa fasaxay. I don't care. Meesha u socdo, you can tell me, oh, waxaaneeto daadasho le waaye, it's going to recover, 105 waaye, dhib ma laho. Hadeertaan the price wuxuu maraya 98,000. Eventually what happens, bahalkaneeto, that as the price moves higher, oo kor usii soconayo, this thing also catches up. The price moves higher, this thing catches up. But the price markuu si xoog u dhaqaaqo, it leaves a huge gap. It takes a very long amount of time inuu kusoo noqdo, but you can see that right now it's slowly creeping in inuu usoo dhawaanayo. Eventually in oo hoos usoo dhici doono, that it will cross below. We don't know haddii oo 98 kaneeto ku noqon doonto below it, maybe right here to 92, 94 gaaseeto, or maybe bahalkan koro imaa doonaa, waxay isla kulmi doonaan at 130 and hoos usoo jabsa doonaa, and that's when we start seeing the bear market. So to 20 simple moving 20 weekly moving average, it's eventually waa kana ma haasto waxyariisa ugu dhiman inuu soo jabsado. We've seen it in the past inuu jabsaday, but the 52 ended up showing as a good support. It happened here twice. Intan waa ujeedaa, like look here, there was this huge drop kasoo dhacay BTC on a weekly moving average. I think it was like 10% to soo daadatay. On a weekly, it closed below it, but maysan daadanin. Immediately recovery ka dhacay and it continued. So will it show you exactly tan camal ama inta kugu dhacda edan uu ka noqdo ama waxaa laga yaabaa inuu jabsado? Aniga there is a highly likely, because we've seen a bahalkii wax la yiraahdo a very high returns aan aragnay from the previous. This was like very low or high, but from the previous high returns or high. So when this happens, tan camal ma noqon doonto, instead daadasho ayay noqon doontaa. And that's what iskugu diyaari doono, that I'm going to say, you know what, waan ka dhex fariisan doonaa, that inshallah I'm going to start accumulating as it goes down eventually. So this 109, it's a very critical support. Hadeertaan meeshaan uu taagan yahay, that BTC needs to hold this level. Level kaneeto waa inuu u dhexeeya. You do not want to see below that level. When it goes below that level, then it is very critical kaseto, a critical moment, and then it's just going to continue, start bleeding. But this is still a long-term bullish that we might see dhinaca Octoberkiisa waa laga yaabaa inaan arki doono. Another one that I'm paying extra attention on is the CME. CME-ga waa xiran yahay. It's a weekend. Hadeertaan wuxuu furmi doonaa isliintu furmi doonaa insha Allah. When that Monday opens up, haddeertaan wuu xiran yahay. There is going to be a huge gap. Gapkaneeto waan sugaya. This is 92,000. I'm still waiting for this gap to be filled. I don't know when kan maanta buuxi doono. Probably the bear market will imaan doono buuxi doona, but we are still going to wait for that gap in uu soo buuxsado, even including intadaneeto daadashadan oo daada oo intadan 103 gan oo ka kacay. This is some kind of awkward movement kaaseeto eventually asagana wuu imaan doona, but nobody, I cannot tell you haddeertaan for guarantee when, but one thing I can tell you for sure is daadashadaneeto ee soo daadatay. Let's go from here 112 kaneeto of jimcada ma ahane Friday ee ku xirmatay. When the market closed, BTC wuxuu sii aad all the way to 102. There's a huge gap oo ka samaystay. Let me see right here. Do we have a gap? No. Probably gap was samaystay. If it's going to create a gap, that gap is eventually going to be filled. That's what I'm waiting for. Haddii aysan dhicin that this was a smooth ride, so there is no gap, sidiisu ku noqonaya, and it's just going to continue back up to where it was at, because haddeertaan 116 ayuu ku xirmay, and the market closed. Waa ujeedaa 116 waaye. Even though that it's showing you a week below, there is possibility that hadhowti that it might create a small gap at 113 and BTC inaan aragno by maybe Tuesday or Wednesday in a 113 meelahaas ay ku noqotay. So but the other interesting part, Halmar Ankutura, see very lightly that, you know, these trend lines, as I wallahi, it actually works. You know, this was a supply zone, eventually worked off a BNB and it became a demand zone. So if you would have looked at this line, be like, okay, this is my buy zone for fiicanad ku heli lahayd, you know, you never know. Allahu a'lam. XRP was another thing. It became a very nice Bahalkaneto descending triangle ahead. It came down all the way down to Hadertan Meshan Utagiyahay. Kuaneto, they went below the 20 simple moving average Kaneto on a weekly basis. Ka hostise also jabsaden. Let's go, let's look at it. It's below that. The 52 had the Afirisid. It's also sitting above the 52 weekly moving average. So dhinaca BTC ga zaid uu fiirinoya. I don't care about this other altcoins. Ujeeda BNB zaid oo wili kor u jira. It's like there's a huge gap asigi BNB u dhaxayso. Ethereum support kiisu ku fadhiya. It's right here. It's about 3,200. So there's a huge gap u dhaxayso. But more likely than not, hadhowti kor inuu aadi doono that one leg up inuu dhiman tahay, but that leg could be very small. And another thing that I'm paying extra attention to, wahawa, is the RSI gaseto when it comes to let's look at very quickly RSI weekly ga. Aniga waxaan kula qaybsanaya the stuff that I look at on a weekly basis. And this is another RSI. Where's the RSI ga inta ku sawirtay? I mean, anyway, it's okay. We can just draw that again. Push this up and just look at it. How bearish bearish divergence from here to here on a weekly basis. So what I'm looking at intertan wakana bearish divergence it's making a higher high, and we want this to make a new high. Probably measure added on to, we don't know, 130 gas may noqon doonta, 150 may noqon doonta, 140 may noqon doonta. But I know for sure the next all-time high BTC oo samaysto and meeshaneetan ee ku noqoto another bearish divergence. I am definitely, that would be my second indicator aan ku go'aansaday in asiga aan suuqa aan ugu bixi doono, aan dhihi doono, hey, I'm done, ma'asalama. However, but if you are in a long-term holder haddii aad tahay, waxyaalahaasieto camal, they shouldn't be worrying you. I'm just looking as a trader ka dadka trader ka kamid eh. If you look at Newpol waa isla kii camal haddeertaan waxa waaye it measures the difference between unrealized profits iyo losses. So dadka faa'iidada ku jirto iyo kuwa khasaarada ku jiro ayuu u dhaxeeya. Haddeertaan is actually showing you that there is some denial going on. Like, so daadashadaaneta ee daadatay, people are in denial waxyaalaha ka dhacay that they cannot believe that, hey, that meeshaneeto anxiety mala imaanin. If there's an anxiety, you see some anxiety, that's when you see BTC is actually coming even down. So when it starts going up to the grid, that's when you start selling. But another thing that, if these are some charts, they're not 100%, while it's kagala socda. But however, another chart, Ethereum, all of you, it's called the PI cycle. If with the 100-day moving average crosses above the 350 moving average, then we've seen the top. It has not crossed Wiliwaye. Probably the top is not in yet. So according to the PI cycle, the top will innocent esan arkin. So we still yet to see that. And if you look at bahalka kale ee ka hadlaan, the SOPR kiisa waxaa waaye, it's the spent output ratio on chain reveals Bitcoin is being sold at a profit or a loss. Wuxuu kuu sheegoyaa if hadeertaan meesha oo la marayo, are people actually selling it at a loss or a profit? 100% they're selling at a profit. There's nobody selling at a loss right now. If you are selling hadeertaan BTC and you are at a loss, I have no idea what you've been doing, brother. You have to start re-strategizing your entries and your exits. If BTC maanta hadii dhahdo waa gadooya and you are selling it at a loss, I have no idea, brother or my sister. You have to be very cautious when you are entering the market. So right now, even if you sold BTC hadeertaan price ka ku jirtid, you should be at a profit, not at a loss. And this is what the SOPR is telling us, that the majority of the people hadeertaan ay gadooyaan, they are at a profit. When it starts coming down and it shows you below 1 that the coins are being sold at a loss. So it's not below 1, it's above 1, and that people are selling it at a profit. Well, all these greens are ujated, people are selling at a profit. But there's like one probably here. Let's look at it. Probably here. When was this? 0.9. Marco soo taabtay at 112,000. There were people that started selling it at a loss. Very little. Waa kana waa yar yahay, intana waa yar yahay. So if you are among these people, there's definitely something you are doing wrong that you need to go and strategiyaasha aad ku gadatid waa inaad ku noqotaa. The fear and greed right now wuxuu kugu fadhiyaa that people are in a greed moment. 28 ayuu fadhiya as an index when the price is at 109,000 oo ku fadhiyo. When people are in a fear zone, that's when you become greedy. And when you see the greed, let's look at it. Let's zoom in. When you start seeing the greed, that's when you sell. When you start seeing the fear, that's when you start accumulating. That's what I meant by the SOPR ka. Haddii aad ku gadaysid to the green, the red one at a loss, then you're doing something wrong. So the fear and greed kaneeto wuxuu u fiiriyaa, it all goes back and looks at the market ka, momentum kiisoo fiiriya, volatility kii fiiriya, social media uga soo fiirina, trends ka soo fiirina, surveys soo qaadaya. They're doing all that thing just so that they can bring you the fear and index maanta wuxuu taagan yahay at number about 37%. That's when you start accumulating. So the RSI index is the same. It's telling you that it's an overbought series, not an oversold. So it's still at a high meelaha dadka ay ku gadi karaan Bitcoin year to year percentage from last year to hadeertaan meesha BTC oo fadhiyo. Year to year percent is almost 99%. Let me see what is it at. Year to year percent 77%. Last year, this October 2024, haddii aad gadan lahayd, today BTC waxaa fadhisaa 77%. Year to year date. This is how the long-term holders, they do not struggle with this dip dhinaca BTC marka la hadla. Cabsidaaseeto iyako ma ku jirto. The year to year 2% arag, it's so crazy. 77% profit ku fadhisaa. Then that tells you you need to accumulate and put your safety zone in BTC, not the shitcoins. Amazingly chart. Wallahi, I have no idea how much words aan ku dari karo. This is S&P Bitcoin ratio. No, astaghfirullah. This is the Satoshi per dollar. I'm going to go to the S&P next. Satoshi per dollar. Take the price of Bitcoin dollar, divide by 100 million ka qaybinaysa, and then whatever price aku heshid, you divide by that $1, which is equal to whatever this, then you get this. Anyway, look at the chart. Just numberadaas ha fiirinin. Over time, per dollar Satoshiga is decreasing over time. That you will find one day that BTC, one BTC will be equivalent to one BTC. This dollar ratio giisa in oo hoos usii dhaco daadashadiisa. It is crazy. Look at S&P. The amount of S&P 2011, you needed 96 BTC. Was it 96,000? I don't know. I can't even look at the numbers. 429, 211 BTC. S&P priced in BTC. Over time, as the price moved up, BTC ekacday per S&P also usoo dhacoya, and it is decreasing over time. So it's telling me, as the person who's invested in stocks S&P over time, that BTC igaga roon, that I am actually making more profits in putting it in BTC than the S&P since 2011, as far as USD value. Another thing I could see, it's so amazing. It tells you BTC never look back. This chart wuxuu ku tusinayaa that the prices that BTC oo taabtay aysan weligeeda allaheeda lagu noqonin. 2013, 165 ayuu fadhiyay. It never looked back to that price. Meaning that when BTC actually goes up or soo daato, let's say if maanta waadu ka soo kacay, last time wuxuu ahay 73. I think, yeah, 75. Let's look at 70. Waa kana 95. So this 94 ganeeto marka lagu soo noqdo, inta hadda meesha uu marayo 109 ganeeto wuu soo hoos u soo noqonaa, and line kan wuxuu noqon doonaa like a straight line. But you can look at the power of the trend line, that it never looked back to the previous price. That into oo ka soo noqday, I mean, yes, 73 gadi uu soo taabto, then that becomes your next level. Meeshaas uu ku fadhiyo. But what you are looking at is it is the power of this chart, that it never puts you back. You never look back from where you came from. It doesn't have the ups and downs. If you're looking at bahalkaneto, fiirinaysid this, yeah, you have ups and downs. Kan haddii fiirinaysid, you have ups and downs. But chartka markay saan loo soo qurxiyey, and they just showed you, you don't have ups and downs. You all have is just continue to make higher. It's crazy. Subhanallah. This is for theoretical value. I would not even look at this. Kan waxaan igu soo qadaa as a theoretical value. Ma jeclaysan inaan ina qaybsado, but what they waxay dhahoyaan is that if BTC, you were to take the previous cycle and percentage kale waaya, lacagta ma la fiirinayo, and copy that percentage and put it on the other side, maanta iyadoo ay tahay top 124, on the other side, even if BTC were haddii ay soo daadato, that the lowest it could go is as far as value 28,000. Like, if you were to copy what happened, if you were to copy to the T, af Soomaali ma aqaan sida lagu dhaho, like exactly T ka dhacday haddii aad soo copy garaysid, aad dhinaca kale aad keentid, that the lowest it can go is to 28 to 29,000, and the highest it would go is 216. But over time, as the price goes higher, this price changes. This is just theoretical. There's no basis behind it. They're actually doing this for fun. Ha u qaadanin as it is. But you have the NUPO, you have the PI top cycle, the SOPR in mesh kor lagu gadooyo, you still selling at a profit. Hadeertaan greedka fiiga indexkiiska inuu batay, faa'iidada een soo badatay. Weli you are at and above 50 ku jirta on higher side, year to year ina faa'iido ku jirtid. Everything just shows you that there is no fear going on in the market despite soo daadashada maanta ee soo daadatay ama shalay ee soo daadatay, that BTC is actually still holding. And if you look at the ATR KISA average true range right now is actually becoming 8,000 per increase or decrease in Okonesa, which is amazing. Subhanallah. So inshallah, those are the only numbers that I'm keeping an eye for, is that, you know, another all-time high of the Osamesto and a break below the 52. And those are the stages that are cautious. Right now, we are still going to stick to this Balki or the other one or Lagahadlai, and we're still going to stick to our returns, October returns. We're still waiting for a green October. If it changes otherwise, then the whole market changed. The whole October KISA and post halving or green arca, it actually changed. Then November you have to start rethinking, and December Q4 GISA you have to re-strategize. But right now تحضر كذا بتسو, and inshallah, you know, mirahadin butso, you know, it's all about BTC dominance and paying attention to that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.